Hi, this is Professor Cordes, and this is the Week 5 lecture video for English 353 Children's Literature. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about several different things, starting with beginning books. We're going to be talking about childhood development theories, as we've mentioned before. We also are going to be talking and discussing about illustrations in children's literature. So, even though this is a wide spectrum of items, this is actually really fun because illustrations are a key component to children's literature. It's part of the developmental phase. Visual literacy helps us with vocal literacy. The idea that we can create an image, create a picture that helps tell a story is just so important for our child reader, okay? Especially when we look at the early developmental stages. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I've got some examples here of illustrations that I'm going to help you through and model for you what it looks like to analyze an image. First thing, though, however, I'd like to bring our attention back to this document here. This was given out in week 4. You guys saw the different categories in which kind of a child grows and develops. The first thing that we see here, you've got birth to 2 years, 1.5 to 3-year-old toddler. You've got the early preschool, age 3 to 6. That would even cross over into kindergarten. Then you have more of the 11 to 7, which is the middle school childhood age range, and then you come into adolescence. Our goal for this is to primarily focus within these first couple years. So we are going to be looking at a kindergartner, a first grader. We're going to be kind of looking in that age range specifically because that's when children develop so rapidly. It's important to read. It's important to showcase illustrations and colors and shapes and all those things. And children's cognitive brains develop so rapidly. And so we want to focus in on that group, okay? To focus in on illustrations for a middle schooler or a high school, it does not have the same impact. It has a different impact. It doesn't have the same. So when we look at illustrations, let's start there. When we look at illustrations, we want to identify what's going on for the story and how they contribute to the message that's being conveyed. So when you look at a beginning book, okay, you have to identify where it falls on this chart. So if I was to look for, let's say someone is throwing a baby shower, I'm going to bring over some baby books. I would need to find items that are here for the Erikson, Piaget, and Kohlberg arena. Okay, these 3 theorists are the ones that kind of help us understand what is appropriate for the child in that age range. So if I am going to purchase a gift for a brand new infant, I'm not going to purchase like our text for this week, like Where the Wild Things Are. While this is a good book to have, an infant would not respond as well as it would as if it was looking at, but not the hippopotamus. Okay. You have to understand where that is, because then you can understand how do those images correlate with the message that's intended for that reader. So it's almost like a domino effect in place where you place things. So I remember when my kids were first born, getting where the sidewalk ends, because I remember from my childhood. However, this was not necessarily a book that an infant, a baby, could go through and read and manage and understand. I mean, it's got black and white pictures. The pictures here are very abstract, right? They correspond with the picture. They're kind of out there. Let me do this. The pictures are in a different realm, and it's poetry, so that's different as well. Could I read this book to an infant and get the same like rhythm and rhyme and words and decoding? Absolutely. Absolutely. Reading to an infant in any capacity is perfect. However, when you have to still determine, is this book appropriate? So while this book is phenomenal, okay, this book is geared more towards a middle school, probably even younger than that, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, right? Because there's silly poems. There's illustrations that are in black and white that simplistically give more vibrance to the words and to the rhythm of the poetry. So you have to kind of navigate through that. Also, the complexity of the reading is I know, see, I've read this book so many times. The complexity of the poems are way more advanced than where they need to be. So if you were to look at Where the Wild Things Are, the sentences are simplistic, they're straightforward. If you look on, you'll get things where there's just 3 lines, 2 lines, and the illustration dominates the story. And so even if I flip back, there's pages that have illustrations on the entire thing, which showcases that's where we want our attention. That's what's going to tell us our story. So understand, let's look at the domino effect again. What does the book have to offer? Okay. What age range and child are we dealing with? Okay. And then how do those illustrations kind of connect to helping tell the story that's appropriate for that child? So there's a whole mess of things that we are dealing with when we pull apart these images. Okay. So I can go through and I can do a illustration analysis on where the sidewalk ends. But if I'm not connecting this to what's happening for the reader, the intended reader, let me say that, the intended reader, it's not going to matter. Okay. So let's kind of model this for you. So let's say I've got the book Lovable Lyle. Okay. And Lovable Lyle is for, I would say, let me go back to my chart. Okay. So we can see what the chart looks like. If I was going to go for Lovable Lyle, I would probably go to probably a preschooler. Okay. Either a preschooler or a kindergartner. Now, the reason why I say this is kind of twofold. You are there's multiple folds. This book right here, Lovable Lyle, deals with a little bit older protagonists. Okay. You've got individuals who are probably 6, 7. So I would give this to a late preschooler or a kindergartner. Okay. Going into first grade. Okay. And when I look at this, obviously the book itself is in paperback, so you're going to give it to someone who's not going to tear the book. Okay. And then you're going to also notice the complexity of writing. So this right here can be read to a baby, to an infant, obviously, but this right here can also be, gosh, I keep forgetting to do this for you. I'm sorry. I apologize. There we go. The reading that you see here is more complex. So adult would need to read this. A first grader would not be able to get through this. They would probably have struggles decoding the words. But the story is geared towards that age range. So when I'm looking at this, and perhaps you guys can see, there's things that I've already noticed. Okay. Some of the pages have the text down here at the bottom. Some of them have it off to the side. Okay. It's placed within the story. So you have an incorporation of story, image, back and forth. An advanced child, that's not what I was going to say. An advanced reader would be able to track along and follow. For the child, a preschooler, kindergartner, first grader would be able to track along with the pictures. Okay. Now, so that's one of the components as well. So you're looking at placement, right, of image as well as words. The other thing that I'm already noticing, just flipping right now, is the color scheme. We've got these pinks, we've got these greens, we've got these yellows, okay, and then we've got kind of like a gray tone. Those are the primary colors that they are using. which are not primary colors that you would find in a child's book, a beginning book, that showcase, like an Eric Carle book, who does The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Those are very vibrant, all of the colors of the rainbow. Here, they focus on specific ones, primarily to focus on the only thing that's really green is our alligator, right? And there's certain, like the characters are featured in yellow, and the certain things that our protagonist is doing is in yellow. So here, it's drawing our attention to those certain components. So a preschooler, a kindergartner, will be able to focus in and out on, okay, the protagonist was in yellow, here's yellow over here again, and be able to track. That helps us with narrative. That helps a child learn how to tell a story. That is when the child is be able to identify this happened first, second, and third, right? Beginning, middle, and end. So it's great when children start to talk, right? Toddlers get to say mama, dada. They respond. That linguistical, response of mirroring. Perfect. It's not until a child can tell you a story that their brain has cognitively gone into, this is the sequence of events. This is what's happening. And so a book like this helps build that, okay? It helps us bridge together. This part is first. Here's my alligator. My alligator is going to be the same again. And here's what's happening for this, right? And it takes us along on that journey. So now you can kind of see why this is a more advanced, because the pictures, while they're next to the image, poetry is different. It's all black and white. It's not connected together, right? Versus where the wild things are, where you have blocks, right? And then here's this. So a little bit, while this has the same concepts as Lovable Lyle, this one here is, okay, this is what you need to focus on, and here's your image, right? Here's what you need to focus on, here's your image. So the age range of a text is very important in that literacy development, okay? The illustrations add to that. This is a watercolor. These are watercolor images that have been reprinted, which offer a very soft, a very simplistic type of narrative. It gives off that tone versus a harsh, almost printed one like these, okay? Where it's very exaggerated, long trees, right? You've got oversized monsters versus a black and white image that you would see here in poetry with just a few bits of shading. So when we analyze a picture, we need to analyze what is happening in that moment, what's going on in our story, and how does that contribute to the child, okay? Hopefully you had a chance to see me illustrate that or demonstrate that there. Sorry, no pun intended with the word illustrate. But the things are done again. This right here, I found this on the shelf. This is a historical book. It's about a locomotive, okay? And this is kind of like a nonfiction story in which it tells us what happens. The very first opening pages is all about American history. And so it gives us factual information. Now, whether a child would read this or not, it kind of sets the tone for what's happening in the Wild West. So you see here where you have a picture. It's got the text, right? Here is a road made for crossing the country, a new road of rails made for people to ride. So as we go through, we are able to see and get this historical, right? And again, we've got very soft colors. We've got the same color palette of blues and yellows and browns, right? They're not venturing out into anything abstract until we come to the train, because the train is going to be red so that our reader can track with that item, okay? If you go through The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle, the caterpillar is always, I think it's like on the right side of the page. And that's so children can know, this is where I go. This is where I need to find that character, okay? So when we are looking, ladies and gentlemen, at these age ranges, when we are analyzing images, we have to kind of pull all of those things together. So looking here at this chart, and again, these are all fluid realms. These are not categories that are set in stone. Some things develop differently, right? Bring myself back down here. A boy might mature differently than a girl. A girl might mature faster than a boy. It all depends on the environment they're in. Maybe they have regular quality reading time that helps develop their visual literacy quicker than others. Okay. There's so many variables to it. Okay. I was not an avid reader as a small child, like preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I struggled. I was one of the ones who counted the sentences ahead when we were in a reading group because I needed to practice the decoding of what these words were, right? I needed to figure out what it was, practice it, and then go from there. The building of this, right? The building of images and literacy is so key for our readers. Okay. When we analyze these texts, when we're looking at They All Saw a Cat, the Tar Beach, when we're looking at But Not the Hippopotamus, we are looking at very purposeful things, concepts, ideas, images that go for our child reader. So things are done on purpose. Go to a bookstore, walk around the children's section, begin to notice in the beginning books what images are presented there. What features do you see? What age range is that book for, and how do those images help tell the story for the age of that child reader? Okay. So all of these are fantastic books. I put down a couple different lecture videos as well that are going to kind of reiterate what I've talked about. This is always a fun activity because we get to see how these images pick up. I remember, I don't have it with me, reading the Edge Chronicles because the cover image was so fascinating. And I picked it up and I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is great. And I began to connect because there was an image that went along with that story. Okay. When I read through The Magic of Oz as a kid and getting hooked into it, it was not because of the images. It was because the story was so captivating and I got to imagine what it was like based upon the front cover. My chapter book did not have illustrations, but I was used to the images from before helping me grasp my imagination so I could move forward. So it's all a developmental process. This is fun. This is great. Take some time, find a kid's picture book, go through it and begin to analyze what you see. How are the pictures formed? How does this help tell the story? Okay. Message me or email me if you guys have any questions or concerns. Have fun with this. I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy your reading.